He said he wanted to die last. Nobody believed him. Stefano is sitting on top of a mountain of bodies, laughing at every single person who counted him out. If you're new here, if you rock with power, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop your theories down in the comments. Because today, we are diving deep into Power Book 3, Raising Kanan Season 5, and we are talking about the man of the hour, the man who refused to die, your boy Stefano. This dude survived a season that was designed to bury him. Everybody and their mama wanted this man gone. Rock wanted him gone. Marvin wanted him gone. Even the fans, including myself, we were ready to see him get smoked the moment the season started. And somehow, someway, this man is still breathing while half the cast is in the ground. Ain't that wild? Let's talk about it. Because Stefano's journey this season was honestly one of the messiest, most calculated, most frustrating rides we've had in this entire universe. This man has been around since the tail end of Season 2, and ever since then, he has been slowly, quietly building himself into the most dangerous man in the whole show. Nobody really clocked it at first because he came in kind of low-key, kind of in the background, doing business, playing nice. But you know how it goes in Power. The quiet ones are always the ones you gotta watch. Now think about where this man started. He was Rock's connect, her way to move around Saboselli without dealing with him directly. Smart move on her part, right? Using Stefano to get what she needed while keeping her hands sort of clean. And for a while that worked. They did business, things looked smooth, everybody was eating. But we already know nothing in this show stays smooth for long. It never does. And the moment Marvin got involved doing side jobs behind Rock's back with Stefano, you already knew this was about to blow up in everybody's face. I mean, how many times do we have to watch Marvin learn this same lesson? Every single time this man does a side deal, disaster follows. Every time. You would think after everything he's been through, he would know better than to mess with Saboselli's son. But no, he keeps doing it. And Stefano definitely took advantage of that. Here's the thing about Stefano that a lot of people slept on. This man is a master manipulator. He does not get his own hands dirty if he can help it. He finds somebody desperate, somebody loyal, somebody who wants to prove themselves, and he uses them like a tool until they're no longer useful. That's exactly what he did with Marvin. He tried to convince Marvin that Rock was in the way, that Marvin deserved her spot, that Marvin should be the one running things instead of his sister. And look, say what you want about Marvin, but that man showed loyalty. He told Stefano straight up, "Nah, I'm not going over my sister. She earned that spot. She's the one who pulled this family up when everything was falling apart." Respect to Marvin for that, honestly. But once Stefano saw that Marvin wasn't going to flip on his own blood, what did he do? He moved on. He found new pawns. And this time, it was Breeze and Kanan. Think about that for a second. All season long, who has really been running Breeze and Kanan around like errand boys? Stefano. This man had 2 grown men out here doing his dirty work all season, while he sat back and let the chaos build around him. And it worked. It actually worked. While everybody else was out here bleeding and scheming and losing people they loved, Stefano was positioning himself the entire time. And then things really went left when Stefano found out Rock was doing business with Pino out in Manhattan. This is where I have to ask y'all something, because I think about this a lot. What if Stefano had just left it alone? What if he let Rock do her thing with Pino and Flossie and just kept his lane? Genuinely, I think this whole war could have looked completely different. Rock wasn't necessarily coming for him. She was just trying to expand, trying to survive, trying to keep her family fed the same way everybody in this show is always trying to do. But no, Stefano got in his feelings about it, decided it was disrespectful, decided it meant war, and that was the spark that lit this entire final season on fire. And you already know how power works. The moment 2 people who used to be close start pulling away from each other, it never just fizzles out quietly. It turns into a full-blown war. Rock ended up making enemies out of practically everybody around her this season. Snaps and Pop, Kanan, Breeze, Stefano, even Unique turned on her at some point. That is not a coincidence. That is a woman who got completely surrounded, and Stefano was sitting right in the middle of it all, pulling strings the entire time. But here's what I really need y'all to sit with for a second. Rock and Marvin tried to take this man out. They actually had a real shot to end Stefano for good. So why did it go so unbelievably wrong? Because the plan Rock and Marvin came up with to take down Stefano was honestly one of the sloppiest moves we have seen all season. And that is saying a lot considering how much chaos has gone down in this final run of episodes. They brought in Jelly Roll and his crew to do the job. Jelly Roll. Out of everybody they could have trusted with something this important, this is who they picked. And look, I'm not saying the man couldn't have handled it. Honestly, Jelly Roll probably could have gotten the job done clean if things had gone the way they were supposed to. But instead, what happens? His own partners turned around and gave Stefano the heads up about what Rock was planning. Like, why? Why would you do that? You already agreed to the job, you already took the risk, and then you turn around and tip off the target? That right there tells you everything you need to know about loyalty in this world. There is none. Everybody is out for themselves. Everybody is looking for the next best deal. And Stefano, being the snake that he is, clearly offered these dudes something better than whatever Rock and Marvin were paying. And just like that, the whole plan fell apart before it even had a real chance to work. Jelly Roll ended up getting dropped for his trouble, and Stefano walked away clean again. I mean, at what point do we stop being surprised by this man surviving everything thrown at him? Because let's be real, this wasn't the first time somebody underestimated Stefano and paid for it. This man has been playing chess while everybody else around him is playing checkers, and it is honestly kind of impressive in the most infuriating way possible. He sat back, let Rock and Marvin think they had the upper hand, let them believe their plan was solid, and then flipped the whole thing on its head the second he got word of what was coming. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is calculated, cold, patient thinking, and it is exactly why this man made it to the final stretch of the season while so many other people did not. Now here's where it gets even messier, because Stefano wasn't just trying to survive Rock's attempt on his life. He had his own agenda running the entire time, and that agenda revolved around Pino. Remember, Pino had been poking at Stefano this whole time because Rock chose to do business with him in Manhattan instead of keeping things exclusive with Stefano. And to Stefano, that wasn't just a business decision, that was disrespect. That was an insult he could not let slide. So when things started falling apart between Pino and Rock, and Pino came to Stefano trying to strike a deal, trying to tell him, look, you can go ahead and take Rock out, get her out of the way for good, you would think Stefano would have jumped at the opportunity. Right? Wrong. Because Stefano, in true Stefano fashion, turned around and said, nah, I'm not just taking her out, I'm taking you out too. You both gotta go. And that right there might be one of the coldest moves this entire season. This man used Rock as a tool to get rid of Pino, the same way he used Marvin, the same way he used Breeze and Kanan. Everybody around Stefano this season has been a pawn in his game, whether they realized it or not. And speaking of pawns, let's talk about Kanan for a second, because this is where I have to ask y'all something that has honestly been bothering me since the episode aired. Why did it take Kanan this long to finally step up? All season, Kanan had power. He had influence. He had the ability to go to Stefano directly and say, leave my mother alone. And he had that ability from early on. But no, he waited. He waited until the absolute last possible moment, the final episode of the entire season, to finally use that power to protect his own mother. Like, come on. Think about how many people could have been saved, how many disasters could have been avoided if Kanan had just stepped up sooner. But that's Kanan for you. Always a step behind, always figuring things out just a little too late, always learning the hard way. And when he finally did go to Stefano and asked him to let Rock go, Stefano actually agreed. He let her go. But there was a catch, because with Stefano there is always a catch. She still had to take out Pino first. That was the deal. That was the price for her freedom. That is honestly what separates Stefano from almost every other character in this final season. He never let his ego make decisions for him the way Pino did. He never let loyalty blind him the way Marvin did. He never hesitated the way Kanan did. Every move this man made was calculated, patient, and ultimately in his own self-interest. And as much as that makes him one of the most frustrating characters to watch, you cannot deny it made him one of the smartest players in this entire game. Say what you want about his methods, but the results speak for themselves. He wanted to die last, and out of everybody involved in this war, he is the one still standing. So now I want to hear from all of you, because this is where it gets interesting. Did y'all want to see Stefano finally get dropped off this season, or are you glad he made it out alive? Be honest, because I know I was ready to see this man get smoked multiple times throughout these final episodes, and every single time, he somehow found a way to slip out of it. Do you think we are actually going to see him again in Power Origins? And if we do you think he survives that story too? Or does his luck finally run out? Drop your theories down below, because I genuinely want to know what you guys are thinking heading into whatever comes next for this universe. Before I get out of here, make sure you go check out my last few videos where I broke down closing thoughts for Kanan, for Breeze, and for Jukebox as well. There is a lot to unpack from this final season, and I want to hear your thoughts on all of it. As always, I want to thank every single one of you for the love and the support, and a huge shout out to all the members of this channel who keep showing up video after video. That means everything. This has been your boy, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace. And that right there is what makes this whole final season so brutal, because just when Rock thought she had cleared every obstacle in her path, just when she thought she had outmaneuvered Stefano, outmaneuvered Pino, outmaneuvered every single person gunning for her spot, Jukebox was the one waiting in the shadows to finish the job. Think about that for a second. After everything Rock survived this season, after dodging bullets from Snaps and Pop, after dodging betrayal from her own allies, after somehow talking her way out of a death sentence with Stefano, it wasn't a rival crew or a jealous business partner that got her. It was somebody who was supposed to be close to her. And that is exactly the kind of gut punch this show loves to deliver right when you least expect it. Because power has never been about the obvious threat. It has always been about the person standing right next to you, smiling in your face, while quietly waiting for their moment. And that brings me back to Stefano, because if you really sit back and look at this entire season from a bird's eye view, this man played every single person around him like a fiddle and walked away without a scratch. Think about the sheer number of people who wanted him dead this season. Rock wanted him gone. Marvin wanted him gone. Pino tried to use him as a weapon against Rock. Jelly Roll was hired specifically to end his life. And yet, here we are, closing out the season, and Stefano is the one still standing. He is the one who got the happy ending nobody saw coming. He told Lump straight up, all he wanted was to die last, and somehow, against every single odd stacked against him, that is exactly what happened. This man got his wish. Now I want you to really think about what that says about this character, because it is not an accident that Stefano outlived basically everybody who tried to take him down. This man understood something that a lot of these other characters never figured out this whole season, and that is patience. Stefano never rushed. He never panicked. Even when Rock stopped doing business with him, even when Marvin refused to betray his sister, even when Jelly Roll's crew came for his head, Stefano stayed calm and let the chaos work itself out around him. He let other people make the mistakes. He let other people take the risks. And then he swooped in at exactly the right moment to capitalize on whatever mess was left behind. That, right there, is exactly how you survive in a world like this. You do not have to be the strongest. You do not have to be the most feared. You just have to be smart enough to let everybody else destroy each other first. But let's not act like Stefano was some kind of hero either, because this man was far from innocent in all of this. He is the reason Marvin got caught up in side deals that put a target on his back. He is the reason Breeze and Kanan spent this entire season doing dirty work instead of focusing on protecting their own families. He is the reason this entire war between Rock and basically everybody else got as bloody and messy as it did. If Stefano had just left well enough alone, if he had just let Rock do her business with Pino without making it personal, how different would this final season have looked? Would Jelly Roll still be alive? Would Pino still be alive? Would Rock have made it out completely unscathed instead of falling to Jukebox in the final moments? It's wild to think about how one man's ego, one man's need for control and respect, ended up reshaping the entire outcome of this war. And I have to give credit where credit is due, because Tony Danza at 75 years old played this role masterfully. Think about how difficult it is to take a character and make the audience flip their entire opinion of him multiple times throughout a series. Stefano started off as somebody a lot of fans actually liked. He seemed reasonable. He seemed like a guy who just wanted to do business and stay out of unnecessary drama. But slowly, season by season, we watched him transform into one of the most manipulative, calculating, and honestly hated characters in the entire show. And Tony Danza sold every single bit of that transformation. The subtle shifts in his tone, the way he carried himself differently once he started gaining more power, the way his relationships with other characters changed as his true intentions came to light. That is not easy to pull off, and this man did it while going back and forth between being liked and being despised multiple times throughout the run of this show. One thing I am genuinely going to miss is the dynamic between Stefano and Unique. That relationship brought some of the only real comedic relief in an otherwise dark and heavy season. Unique clowning him constantly, calling him Little Luini, cracking jokes at his expense every chance he got. That had me cracking up every single time it happened on screen. Even Rock used to get her digs in at him whenever she could. Those small moments of humor made Stefano feel human in a show that constantly reminds you nobody in this universe is safe from tragedy. But now that the war is over, now that Stefano has come out on top while so many others have fallen, what happens to him next? Is this really the last time we see this character? Or is there a bigger plan still unfolding behind the scenes? Because here's the question that has been sitting with me since the credits rolled on this finale. Why would the writers let Stefano, of all people, walk away clean? Think about how this show usually operates. Power has never been shy about killing off characters we love, characters we hate, characters we thought were untouchable. Ghost died. Tommy's whole journey has been one long walk through fire. Even in this very show, Raising Kanan, we have watched major players get wiped out season after season without warning. So the fact that Stefano, a man who spent this entire final season manipulating, scheming, and using everybody around him as a pawn, gets to survive while so many more sympathetic characters did not, that has to mean something. That is not just random writing. That is setup. That is the kind of decision a show makes when it still has plans for a character down the line. And that is exactly why I keep coming back to this idea of power origins. We already know Saboselli's wife, Teresa, is confirmed to be part of that story. We already know the Italian side of this universe is far from finished, and we already know Kanan is going to be deeply tied into whatever unfolds there. So doesn't it make sense that Stefano could end up being part of that world too? Think about the connections. This man has been tangled up with Saboselli's family, with the Italian side of the business, with the kind of power struggles that clearly predate everything we have seen in Raising Kanan. If Power Origins is going back to explore where all of this started, how do you tell that story without somebody like Stefano playing a role in it? It would almost feel incomplete not to bring him back in some capacity, even if it's a younger version of the character or some earlier chapter of his rise to power. But here's the twist that I think a lot of y'all haven't considered. What if Stefano shows up in Power Origins only to finally get what he deserved all along? What if this show is setting him up to survive one war just to walk straight into another one he cannot talk, manipulate, or maneuver his way out of? That would honestly be one of the most satisfying gut punches this franchise could deliver. Imagine watching this man dodge bullets, betrayals, and hitmen for an entire season, only to finally meet his end in a completely different show, in a completely different era, when he least expects it. That is the kind of full-circle storytelling that Power fans live for, and honestly, it would make his survival this season hit even harder in hindsight.